What's up, guys? We are Tottenham TV here, and we have another video for you today. We're going to be talking about VAR, and as Tottenham fans, obviously we should be.
Cameras.
And we're always going to disallowed. So we're obviously, as Spurs fans, we should be big fans of VAR, but I think we should. It's important to give our thoughts on how we think VAR has been implemented in the Premier League, and how we think, if we think it's a good thing, or it's a hot topic at the moment. VAR, a lot of debate going around how it's been implemented, and I think it's worth talking about.
I mean, the way I look at it is that I thought it was implemented really well in the World Cup. I wasn't really a big advocate for VAR before the World Cup. But I thought it worked really well. Obviously, it had its ups and downs, but I thought as a whole it worked really well during that World Cup. What I feared for with VAR is kind of that farcical event when we played Rochdale at Wembley. And I thought was it Rochdale? It was Rochdale, wasn't it? We played Rochdale, Wembley in the snow, and it was just absolutely crazy. Nobody knew what was going on throughout that whole game, taking time to make decisions, and it just wasn't working properly. I think it was more the refs that were implementing it than the actual system itself. We're 2 games into the season now, for the first season of Premier League with VAR. Obviously, I'm delighted with that VAR decision last weekend. But to be fair, on a whole, I think VAR's worked really well in the Premier League so far. Obviously, it's not been absolutely perfect, but it's still new technology and they're still getting to grips with it. But on a whole, I think VAR has been good for the Premier League so far.
I like the implementation of VAR. I think it's needed. I think technology is definitely needed in the game to get these glaring errors wrong. There's a few problems I do have with it. First of all, with offsides. I think there's a big issue they have with offsides because they're using it inconsistently. They're not. Sometimes they're stopping play, and sometimes they're letting play go on to see.
It's not the actual VAR that's the problem. It's the people implementing it.
But this issue only arises because VAR has been implemented. Because now they're checking for offsides, why should the referee ever really stop play for offsides? And we're in a situation now where, for example, on Monday night, Man United played Wolves, and there was a ball played through to Martial, and he's now and the ball played through to him. He's now 1-on-1 with the defender, but the referee stopped play because the ref had his flag up, right? And then and they on the replay, looked like Martial was actually onside on the replay. So why did the referee stop play there? Surely didn't he cost Man United a chance? But then is it possible to never stop play for offside? Because what if a player was offside and he wins a corner? You can't bring it back then. You can't check the VAR for that. Yeah. So it's not. So there's a big problem there, a really big problem for me, because if you're using it inconsistently and sometimes you're using it offside, sometimes you're not. It's a problem. I mean, they have to work out.
Obviously, consistency is going to be key if we're going to get it right. I think.
But how do you solve that problem? I can't see how you can solve that problem.
I mean, me personally, I have no clue. Like, if they haven't, I don't know. Like, it's up to the professionals to decide. I really don't know how you're going to solve a problem like that, but. Surely there's something that can be done. I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comments below. I can't get my head around it. The only thing I think of is
maybe changing the rule in some way. Because if you're going to have checking VAR for offsides, then you can't have a situation where sometimes the referee's stopping play for offside and sometimes he's letting play go on and then they're going to check it later. You can't have that situation because it's going to deem unfair. Why on one side of the pitch, Martial could be going through and he's flagged. On the other side of the pitch, they're going to let play go on and then they score and then they check VAR, and that's really unfair on both sides. You can't that consistency is really frustrating. I find another point.
Well, maybe you could just eliminate linesmen.
Yeah, either you eliminate linesmen or maybe you change the rule. Maybe I had an idea that maybe you're allowed to be offside except for when you score. You just can't score when you're offside. And that means you're only checking VAR when the player scores, because otherwise you're allowed to be offside.
I mean, obviously it's a new technology, so there's still a lot to be ironed out. But having said all these problems that we've been speaking about, I think on a whole it has actually worked really well so far.
Yeah, what do you think of the criticism people say that if enough of those moments like against City happen, where a 90th minute winner goes in and the whole place has gone berserk, and then a minute later, 19 seconds passes and it finally gets ruled out. And then if enough of those situations happens, maybe fans will stop celebrating goals and wait for the VAR decision. What do you think of that?
I mean, people are talking about kind of muted celebrations and that kind of stuff. But as you can say, look, that celebration, if you score in the 90th minute, it's not going to be muted.
No.
It's not going to be muted, no matter what happens. When it gets taken off for VAR, then fair enough, it's a kick in the teeth. It's probably the worst thing that can happen in a game. You know, you score in the last minute, it gets taken off for VAR. But then the other team gets the chance to celebrate even harder than it creates different kind of emotions. It definitely brings emotion into the game more. In terms of like a muted celebration, I don't think that's the case. I
thought fans clever enough to have a muted celebration. Like,
I mean, you're talking about away ends full of 3,000 drunk men, so like I don't see muted celebrations going to be a problem. Maybe from the players, but not from the fans.
And I think also there's 2 City goals. They're quite rare in terms of, on first glance, like when it first went in, there really didn't seem anything that could possibly be wrong with those goals. So obviously you're going to have people just, because we both assumed it's a goal because it just looked like a goal. It didn't look like, what could be wrong with it?
Anything wrong with that. But that's what's great about VAR, you know, because it was an illegal goal. It was 100% illegal goal, and it got scratched out, but nobody could see it. That's the whole point of VAR.
And what do you think of the handball rule? So some people saying, you know, for what can you have a situation on the football pitch where it's one rule for one and another rule for another? Because right now the handball rule only affects attackers, but in terms of defenders, there's a bit more leeway. But is that right? Do you think?
I don't think it is right, to be honest. I think that it should be the same rule for everyone, defenders and attackers.
I have a different opinion on that. I think it is right. I tell you why I think it is right, because the reason why they've changed it, maybe the rule is slightly wrong because the wording of the rule is no hand can be involved in the build-up to a goal or scoring a goal, right? Either intentional or unintentional. Now, I think that rule may be a bit unfair. Look, you don't want people scoring goals with their hands, whether intentional or unintentional. So I think the rule in that sense is fine, because you don't want someone, even by accident, scoring a goal with their hand. You don't want that to be a situation, that being allowed. Right?
Yeah.
So they made a rule saying even if it's by accident, if a goal goes in with your hand, that's ruled out. But they've also added in the build up to a goal. Now that's a bit more touchy, because I guess I see what they're saying, because they're saying, well, if you're going to disallow goals unintentionally with your hand, then if you set up a goal unintentionally with your hand as well, that should also be ruled out. Maybe there's a bit more debate there, but I can understand the rule being that they don't want goals being benefited. You don't want a goal scored because of a hand involved. I get that. And you also don't want rubbish penalties being given for situations which are clearly not handball. But if you don't want the rule worded, for example, if your arm's in an unnatural position, then that counts as deliberate handball. You want a penalty to be given if the hand was intentionally used to benefit the defender. Intentionally, though, you can't have a situation where players are aiming for a defender's hand and then penalties are being given. So in that sense, you kind of do have 2 rules for the defender and attacker.
Well, I mean, it's like I think it's the same rule. It's intentional and unintentional. I think if it's an intentional handball, no matter if you're a defender or attacker, it doesn't matter. It's a handball. Unintentional, it's still a grey area, but
that opens a door for goals to be unintentionally scored with your hand, and we don't want that.
But what's a goal unintentionally scored by your hand? If your hand is by your side and it hits your hand and goes in, is that a handball or not a handball? For me, that's not a handball.
Right, but if you're I get that, but say your arm's out there and you've gone for a header. If
your arm's in an unnatural position,
it's unnatural. You've jumped for a header, right? And the ball's missed your head, but it's gone in off your hand. That's unintentional. But would you want that to count?
Yeah, that shouldn't be allowed.
Why though? That's unintentional.
It is unintentional, but your hand. It depends where your hand is as well. I think if your hand's behind your.
I hate this unnatural position. I hate this. It's the worst term in football.
I know, but it's relevant.
Rubbish. It's not relevant.
It is, because if your hand is behind your side, then obviously
that's not a natural position.
Huh?
It's not a natural. This is not a natural position.
It's like you're trying to avoid it, kind of thing. If your hand's up here and then it hits your hand and goes in, it's a handball.
If you're jumping, your hand being up here is a natural position.
Yeah.
So it's irrelevant. Your hands being by your side is not a default natural position. That's just a natural position when you're standing still. That's not how football's played. Football's running. If you're running, your hands are like, sometimes your hands are up and down.
Yeah, but then you can kind of play it and saying like, oh, jumping, and then you hit the ball with your hand when it is intentional, but it looks like it's not intentional. You know what I mean?
That's why the goal should be ruled out.
Yeah, well, it's a tough one. What do you guys think? Should these kind of goals be allowed? Should they be disallowed? I'm still unsure, to be honest.
For example, if Laporte, do you think it was right that the Laporte goal was ruled out? Do you think that was correct? Sorry, Jesus goal, that Laporte handball.
I don't know. Look, I'm very biased in this situation. Become a Spurs fan,
I agree.
I've seen that. We've been stung with it before with Sissoko.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing, I was very bitter about that Sissoko penalty, so I'm obviously going to call that Laporte thing a handball. But I can see arguments both ways to the argument. So
this is why I think the rule in itself, maybe it should be changed. It should be changed from build up to just a goal being scored. I think
there are arguments both ways where you could be right or could be wrong. So it's a very difficult one.
Like, I understand the players' frustrations, but I think you kind of do need both two different things. You can't. I can see the logic behind the rule, and I'm not totally against it. I'm really not. I think it's fair, and people blaming VAR for catching these things is also stupid. I think the main problem as well with VAR is the fact that it did take about 2 minutes for them to make that decision on Saturday.
But all in all, I think most decisions have been pretty quick.
Yeah, but I think you're
always going to get the odd decision that's going to take its time to actually figure out. Because not everything's perfect. I think there's still a long way to go to make it perfect. I'm not actually sure what needs to be changed to make it perfect, but there is a long way to go.
And also the Rodri thing, he got fouled in the box.
Yeah, see, that should have been called a penalty.
And do you think the referee should have overturned the decision? Because there's
what actually happened with that? Did VAR call that, or did the ref call that?
Well, apparently the ref didn't see it, and then VAR didn't overturn it.
But VAR saw it and turned it, and
VAR sees everything. VAR sees everything.
So if VAR saw that, he needs to be going in the ref's ear and telling him it's a penalty.
See, what the Premier League are trying to implement is minimal interference from VAR as possible.
Yeah, but if there's like a game-changing moment like that, like where it's a penalty or
I get that, but what they want is they only want a situation. Basically, what they want to go with the referee's decision as much as possible. And if the referee's made a decision and it's not 100% clear, like 1,000% clear that the referee's made a massive error, they're not going to overturn it. For example, that penalty that Tammy Abraham won against Liverpool in the cup final a few days before. Yeah. The referee gave the penalty. Now, on second look, it probably wasn't. It probably was. He probably didn't get touched. But because there was a bit of debate, it was like, maybe one way or another, the referee decided to go with the referee's call because they don't want to be overturning all. If it's not like crystal clear, they don't want to be overturning the referee's decision. So if it's debatable, they're just going to go with the referee's decision.
See, that I disagree with.
Why?
That I disagree. I think that if it's debatable, you should be going to VAR. If it's debatable, then you need to be going... Because obviously, on first look, it could be debatable, but they could have a look backside and see it's not actually debatable. Like that Rodri penalty was 100% a penalty.
It was a penalty, but
what's debatable about that?
Was it? Did he definitely drag him down to the floor?
Yeah, but all they had to do is a quick look on VAR, and you can see it's an actual penalty. So you got to overturn the referee.
But I think when there's debate involved, I disagree with you in terms of if it's a debatable decision. I think you should just stick with the referee's decision. I don't think you should overturn it.
Yeah, but how can you call that a debatable decision?
Because it wasn't 100% a clear penalty. I think it was a penalty. I would have given a penalty, but was it 100% cast iron, no doubt about it penalty? I don't know if it was.
I mean, I think that's wrong for VAR to be implemented like that. Why? I think that every decision, especially like a match-changing decision like that, I think they've got to look at it and make the right decision be called.
I get that, but I don't think you want situations where, for example, that Tammy Abraham penalty, or like you have VAR like debating with each other whether it's a penalty or not.
But like
you just got to make the decision.
Okay,
and you only want clear ones.
But that let's go back to that Rodri penalty. They didn't have to look at it and debate for 3 hours about it. They could have looked at it, 1-2 replays, and that's it. They've made the decision. It's a penalty. Yeah,
look, I think they did make a mistake with that one. In all honesty, it should have been given a penalty. But I'm just saying the logic behind the referee, I can kind of get it, that it wasn't the most obvious of all penalties, you know what I mean? It was a penalty, but, you know, with in the corner, things are happening, people are tugging each other, and if you gave, for example, if by the letter of the law, a tug shirt is a penalty, and if you gave every tug shirt after a corner, you know, then there'll be a penalty every corner. So I can kind of see why he decided not to overturn that and just go the referee's call. But he probably did make a mistake in that one. But let us know in the comments below, what do you reckon? Do you think VAR should be doing more subjective calls? Do you think it should only be doing absolute howlers? And I think it's interesting debates. I think the offside thing's a massive problem they have to sort out.
But are you liking VAR at the moment?
I do like it. I do like VAR. I think it does add something to the game. I think it got a bit of a bad rap after last week, and I was unfairly criticised for implementing the rules correctly, I think, which is a bit harsh. The only thing, the big ones problems I have is just too long over decisions and offside rules. Those are the two big problems with me. Other than that, I think VAR is a very good thing. And I'm looking forward to how they can improve it.
A lot of fans were making their voices heard at Wolves last Monday night as well about VAR, weren't they?
Yeah.
I can't remember the actual decisions. There were a couple of decisions in the Wolves United game which the fans actually weren't happy about, but actually went Wolves' way in the end, didn't it?
Well, no, I think they were debating. They were annoyed because Neves has just smacked one in from 25 yards. And they were looking if there was like
minuscule offside.
Literally, if his stud was offside when they passed the ball back to him, and it was ridiculous. And they were taking like 2 minutes to try and work out if it was. See, those kind of things like that does my nutting.
Yeah.
Because like that's not what the offside rule was brought in for, and VAR. It's not VAR's fault, but VAR is exposing that. That's how flawed the offside rule is, which is frustrating. But I like VAR that it's going to start getting these massive decisions right, and hopefully it's going to sort that out.
If only we had VAR at Old Trafford when Pedro Mendes put it in. If only we had VAR at Wembley when Lampard scored. You know what I mean?
And a lot would have been. Well, that was more goal line technology. Which is really down, to be honest. But yeah. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on VAR. Do you like it? Do you think it's a good thing for the Premier League, or do you think we need to get rid of it, or whatever? Let us know in the comments below your thoughts on VAR. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think. Like and subscribe if you like our content, and as always, come on you Spurs.